All to me, it's Miko, Sam Possible. Miko's, my name is Taffer16, and welcome back to another reaction video. Today, we are going to be finishing How TV Ruined Your Life. There are 2 episodes left, episodes 5 and 6, and we are going to do them both right now.
All these people are currently living through the most technologically advanced era since yesterday. Today, everyone's obsessed with gadgets and machines that light up and go pippy pippy pap pap pip. We spend more time gazing at luminous screens than into the eyes of our loved ones. Gadgetry has become so commonplace we consider it part of nature itself.
Which is more technologically advanced, an iPhone or a cat?
Definitely a cat.
That's a ridiculous answer.
But recently, machinery has become so advanced it's downright terrifying. How did we get this messed up? Maybe things started going wrong when we first surrendered our attention to this flickering meddler.
This week, how TV ruined your life simply by being part of human progress. Don't say it didn't, it did.
Oh, it's an upgrade from last episode. How TV ruined Charlie's marriage.
Progress. Where would we be without progress? Well, you wouldn't be sitting there watching this for one thing. No, you'd be standing outside in a smock, like a peasant.
Yes, we'd all be outside, amusing ourselves by playing the duck bummer phone, like these gormless serfs.
Not that we'd have time to engage in such lofty pursuits. Oh no, without, say, modern machinery, we'd be far too busy chopping wood or tilling the fields. Have you ever tried tilling a field? It's no fun.
Mankind's hatred of chores like field tilling has led it to create all manner of devices to make life seem less pointless and disgusting. From the camel wheel to the wooden foot-operated bow thing to the portable smart-ass, they're all world-altering technologies.
Now spell world.
Once upon a time, television was a new technology itself, and of course, like all new technologies, it was inherently mistrusted.
After all, the television was an unfamiliar intruder which squatted in the corner of the living room, demanding the entire family shut up
Crazy how small that TV is.
If any of these people could have torn their eyes away, they'd have thought it was sinister.
As you might expect, this dangerous new invention had a vested interest in making out technology was a beautiful thing, and it quickly set about showing us wondrous visions of the world of tomorrow.
Optimistic programs like Tomorrow's World gleefully coughed up new and bizarre visions of a glittering future full of automated dial-a-drink pubs, cuddly death machines, jet-powered hoverloos, chessboard skin transplants, and sleek futuristic magi cars which would let middle-aged men impress swinging, hot-panted dolly birds with their accessibility and extreme comfort.
Whoa. What the fuck?
And of course, this future was peopled by plenty of clockwork slaves.
Introducing Mabel, the robot housemaid.
The common assumption was that we'd become a nation of robot-owning layabouts who delegated all our domestic tasks to some sort of motorised Jeeves. Even the ostensibly enjoyable stuff like taking Rover for a walk was farmed out to the bot. Looks like an episode of Britain's Strongest Dog. Some of the most popular early TV serials, such as the whizzy, forward-looking Tom Corbett's Space Cadet, celebrated man's harnessing of technology. Scarcely a moment went by without audiences being startled by some entertainingly probing deep space expedition.
Whoa. Space
General Smith, will you order one of your military space crews to investigate Uranus?
He said Uranus.
How does Uranus look, Husky?
He said Uranus.
Uranus is not uninhabited.
He said Uranus.
The computers show that these radio waves are coming from Uranus.
Oh, they're going to keep saying Uranus, aren't they?
Yeah.
Of course,
Still
the March
funny,
of Progress was lent an extra frisson by the very real space race between Russia and the USA, and as we hobbled towards our giant leap, TV was keen to lob all manner of spacey imagery at the viewer. As Neil Armstrong and his buddies prepared to cram inside a big tin dick and blast off into history, Tomorrow's World showed us what the moon base of tomorrow would look like and how it would work.
There'll be a daily shuttle service where 300 passengers at a time will reach Moon City after a 5-day journey from Earth.
Liars.
While Blue Peter turned into a protracted NASA press briefing with wide-eyed items detailing virtually every aspect of space travel.
Well, possibly the first man on the moon will be an American, and it's nice to think that we've helped him on his way with our specially made British cooling suit.
Whatever the space age heralded, it was clear mankind was going to have a great time of it. Space was going to be all ours. We'd own that shit like an empire. Then the night itself arrived, billions around the world huddled in front of their televisions, and then thrillingly, while a global audience of billions watched with bated breath, man set foot on the moon.
But what is that?
First man on the moon, eh?
One small step for man.
For a while, space exploration
you cut off the whole quote?
celebrated in shows like the
Come on,
fast-paced
man.
alien-busting thriller UFO, which showed wee freaky far-out humanoids conquering an endless wave of extraterrestrial vandals hurtling toward the planet like annoying metal wasps. But away from the televised fiction, we kept returning to the moon in reality.
And what did we discover? Well, we
What
discovered
about getting
that
good
space
space shows
exploration
from
was a
this?
letdown.
For one thing, there wasn't much to do on the moon. There wasn't even a Nando's. We'd spent billions sending astronauts there just to piss around.
I was strolling on the moon one day in a merry, merry month of December.
December.
Furthermore, when we stood on the moon and looked back at Earth, our planet
Like, no,
looked
May.
worryingly fragile.
Having mounted a lengthy PR campaign in its honour, TV now started to wonder whether progress was such a good thing after all.
The totally unforeseen accident on the lunar surface has caused very serious repercussions here on Earth.
Hence the likes of Space 1999, a depressing vision of a future not worth bothering with, in which the moon had become an industrial waste dump manned by accident-prone space lackeys so incompetent they caused a massive nuclear accident which sent the entire meaningless chalky bauble spinning off into deep space with a bunch of angry-looking middle-aged people in unflattering lycra stuck to it.
Holy
And
shit.
as the years slid by, things remained resolutely grim up tomorrow with shows like Blake 7, a grit-toothed we're all gonna die space opera from Dalek creator Terry Nation.
Bet.
This was an epic tale of political exiles perpetually on the run from the evil Federation. It was a miserable existence. Space itself was a washed-out dystopia of brown and grey hexagons, where the highlight of your day was finding a war memorial in a quarry.
Some sort of obelisk, I suppose.
The crew were constantly being shot at and shaken around like despised
Whoa.
stepkids each time
Whoa.
the Liberator hit a cosmic pothole. It didn't even have a happy ending. The entire cast were gunned down in a final
Aw.
episode so devoid of hope it seemed to have been filmed on a camera made of frozen widow's tears. But dying was probably a sweet relief really, since during their brief lives they'd been continually
Well, I was thinking
tortured by
about
the
watching it, but you
technology
spoiled
that
it.
was supposedly assisting them. The chief source of their torment was Aurak, a whirring, winking, smart-ass in a box who loved himself almost, but not quite, as much as an iPhone, and who treated his human companions with the haughty condescension of a professor of Latin snorting at an especially stupid peg.
Aurak, I want to tap Central Spacecraft Registry. Can you do that?
Tap? What is that?
Obtain information from the records.
It's a bit like watching people struggle with a beta version of Windows Vista 30 years ahead of its time.
You will clear the receptor circuits
Windows
to
Vista
receive
sucked,
an
to be
emergency
fair.
program. Confirm when ready.
Confirm readiness. Come on, come on.
You know, sometimes it was like watching Jeremy Paxman wearily quizzing Michael Howard on Newsnight forever.
That information is not immediately available.
Well, can you get it?
It has no bearing on the problem.
Can you get it?
Eventually,
How long is eventually?
it will require time and resources far in excess of the value of the information.
Well, get it anyway. I want the reason for that alert.
Very well. I will report in due course.
Jesus, even Apple computers aren't this snooty. Aurak was cold, heartless, and relentlessly disparaging. Can't help thinking if a computer like that was around today, it wouldn't be in deep space, it'd be judging a talent contest.
Oh no. Yeah, I was thinking about watching that too when he fucking spoiled it. I guess I can't be mad. It's from what, the 70s? This is a Requiem for a Dream theme.
Nothing you can say.
Speaking of sad shit, have you never seen Requiem for a Dream? I probably said this before. That's like the saddest movie ever. If you've never seen it, it's depressing as shit.
Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me.
Sufficient input. Analyzing.
Exterminate.
Processing. You have failed.
Oh no.
Your performance is inadequate. You may now vacate the performance zone.
Okay, thank
You
you.
may now vacate the performance
Zone.
zone.
When you try your best, but you don't succeed.
Once upon a time, computers were so unwieldy and complex, merely switching one on required an army of dweebs acting like they were operating a nuclear submarine.
Okay, please hold the keys are in.
Right, keys in. Can you check this oil level, please, Harry?
All okay.
Right, can you check disk temperatures, please, Malcolm?
Okay, disk up to speed.
Hello, alternator house. Disk oil and temperature okay. Is it okay your end?
Okay for standby.
Switch on standby, Peter.
Bam, ba-da-ba, bam, bam, ba-da-ba.
Standby coming on. Okay, HD coming on.
The computer is ready for use.
But by the early 1980s, computers had become so compact and so basic, it only required an army of one schoolboy nerd to operate them.
This is the computer, and what we're going to do is just to go through a simple little program to demonstrate the computer's capabilities.
Microchips were cheaper and more plentiful, prompting a wave of exciting ads about intelligent machines that could patrol your home.
Program in up to 16 commands, and Big Track will advance, turn, and fire 3 blasts.
Man was clearly
It
getting
will
more
turn and
comfortable
assault your
around
dog.
his machine helpers, sometimes suspiciously close, as in the silly high-tech fantasy Knight Rider.
Oh my
in
God.
which pube-head hunk and future one-man irony empire David Hasselhoff repeatedly slid inside his softly spoken friend Kit to share flirtatious banter. They were such close buddies, it wasn't so much a will they, won't they, as a where's he gonna stick it.
Not now, Michael. I have a headache.
You know, you've never acted this way before, pal.
I guess so. I've never felt this way before.
Perhaps the most intimate relationship between man and computer occurred during Automan, a ghastly concoction clearly inspired by the movie Tron. It starred Desi Arnaz Jr. as Walter, a geeky backroom cop who somehow manages to create a digital friend called Automan who can easily leap out of the computer world and into ours. Although Automan was presumably designed as meaningless tea-time fun, the whole thing seems like a massive gay parable. This could be viewed as the tale of a closeted fantasist who creates a dashing alter ego in order to express his repressed leanings. Because it looks to me like Walter massively fancies Automan. I mean, look, he feels electricity when their hands meet.
Put your hand on top of mine.
Then he leaps at the chance to get more intimately acquainted with his silicon chum.
Come. Enter my dimension.
You're kidding.
I'm not programmed to kid. Move into my form.
But once Walter plucks up the courage to fully penetrate Automan, he has a sort of breakdown and becomes a split personality.
Hey! I'm you!
You can never be me. Still you.
After which this futuristic schizosexual goes cruising through the city streets at night picking up men.
Naughty boy.
Don't hurt me.
I may just want to break you in half.
Jesus Christ, Automan.
Just let me bend him a little.
No, we have work to do.
By now, real people were inviting real computers into their real homes. As far as telly was concerned, computers were supposed to be for important stuff like spreadsheets and numbers and more spreadsheets and more numbers. But it soon became apparent they were being off-roaded into extracurricular fun activities which challenged the broadcasters for space on the box itself, as enthusiastic early commercials made clear.
Now you can play the world's most popular arcade game in your own home.
What's more, they were so advanced they offered an entertainment experience far beyond just gawping at things.
In television Tron, it's so involving, you'll feel as if you're actually in the movie.
Really? Before long, a whole range of new entertainment options was available, and Trad TV clearly didn't approve.
There's monster games like this one, where you run around bumping off critters or swallowing giant cherries. And there's the Space Invader theme, where you shoot at moving fleets of hostile aliens. Fairly boring. And then there's the more recent sports games. Well, sports games to me are perhaps the most appalling use of computers.
Ever since, TV has routinely portrayed video games as an inherently unhealthy and otherworldly
Bro, that's
threat
aged
which
well.
glorifies
Sports games
violence and
suck
is
now.
probably bad for your noggin.
Children in primary and secondary schools are being spirited away to an obsessive world of habitual fantasy violence.
Perhaps the most in-depth, not to mention pre-flip imposterous exploration of the menace of computerized video games was Linda LaPlante's Killer Net, a searing 1998 Channel 4 drama exposing the horrendous truth about computerized entertainment. It concerned a floppy-haired student milquetoast called Scott who got obsessed with a bizarre stalking and murdering game, which wasn't technically feasible then, and still isn't now. To succeed in this frightening game, Scott had to carefully select a willing victim.
She is Tracy.
Painstakingly learn how to stalk her, and spy on her as she's undressing, all without leaving evidence.
Shit. Footprint.
He left evidence.
Score is too low to continue.
Oh,
As well as being difficult, the impossibly detailed game is also magically addictive, and before long, Scott becomes totally obsessed with plotting his cyber killing. And inevitably, because games are sick and wrong, he kills her with a hammer. Yeah, not exactly Sonic the Hedgehog, is it?
Gotta go fast.
Your victim and gain access to stage 3.
At around the same time, an even bigger threat than video games was growing in popularity, the internet. This was something TV could scarcely get its mind or tongue around.
We now have a World Wide Web page on the internet, so you can access the information yourself if you can get onto the World Wide Web, okay? And if you can, this is our address. You need to type in http://www.
Imagine.
NC.
Just Google it for it.
BBC TV children's
Soon, even though some of
Stop
us couldn't
saying
even use
stroke.
a mouse properly, we were coming to rely on computers too much for TV's liking.
Experts are warning that it may already be too late to prevent millions of computer systems breaking down at the turn of the century.
Oh my god, not Y2K.
Who will not survive the coming of the year 2000 simply because they failed to take action now.
With the millennium looming, it was clear mankind hadn't heeded TV's warnings about the danger of machines, and now there was this inbuilt Achilles heel that was certain to kill us all.
Cash points would take your arm off, planes would plop from the heavens like 500-ton sky turds, and nuclear power plants would microwave the continent.
Nobody knew precisely what would happen, but they knew it would suck.
Literally
On
nothing.
Millennium Eve itself, TV gleefully wheeled out some of its most trusted presenters to stand in front of a rotating globe and look on in horror, live, as computers destroyed our world. But in the event, the only thing that seemed to be really affected was Peter Snow's auto cue.
So far, it's cost us about £250 billion to take on the bug. And that's the way it's been. 250 billion pounds it's cost us.
This has got to be like one of the biggest mass hysteria bullshit hoax ever. Like, just ever.
Soon it became apparent that computers weren't going to annihilate us after all, and TV had to reassess its relationship with technology. If it couldn't beat it, it would have to absorb it. What TV needed was to become more like a computer, a machine.
That's kind of a good point, though. It was probably on purpose. It's probably just a hoax made up on purpose to fucking destroy the fucking computer industry. I don't honestly. I need to look more into like how it started, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was that.
Did what you wanted, a machine that was interactive. Interactive TV is nothing new. Witness the thrilling The Golden Shot, essentially an early beta version of the video game Doom, hosted by Bob Monkhouse, in which a member of the public used their telephone, eyes and voice to control a crossbow attached to the studio camera in order to shoot at prizes.
It's just like Doom.
This was massively ahead of its time, although if contemporary society degrades by another 12%, someone's going to pitch a brilliant extreme version of The Golden Shot where viewers fire sharpened toothbrushes into the eyes of convicted paedophiles glued to barbed wire thrones. Anyway, sorry, best keep it light. I was about to bring up Noel Edmonds. Yes, Noel Edmondo Beardy Bum Fuzzleface Edmonds, one of TV's underrated technological innovators, who was filling his shows with pioneering interactive shenanigans from the outset. In fact, Noel seems to have done everything currently popular on the internet on TV years before its time. He kicked off with Swap Shop, which was pretty much eBay with more toys and fewer pirate DVDs. It was effectively an early peer-to-peer file-sharing network.
We have got the top 10 records. Hey, can we have the top 10 records in?
Look, here he is downloading music, albeit from the studio ceiling.
Illegally.
Years before Twitter made it possible to bother your favourite star with mundane questions, Noel was there providing a link.
What is your favourite song?
I'm a golden penny.
Later, his early morning Christmas spectaculars contained some of the earliest mobile phone conversations broadcast on television and a live interactive take on Google Street View.
Can you see that, Gene? Right, now, at any point along here, you could shout stop or tell it to go to the left or the right.
Then when House Party came along, he introduced his own surprise live version of Skype.
Let's go meet this week's star of NTV.
Hello, Andy.
Hello, Noel.
But as soon as Noel was shunted off the Saturday night schedule, TV lost its technological mojo for a while. For instance,
and then he went to go Deal or No Deal.
Mobile phone texts led to an entire BBC Saturday night evening dedicated to the SMS messaging system. Joy of Text Live, a show which already looks so insanely dated, it might as well have been presented by George VI.
You know what's crazy? I've seen a lot of Noel Edmonds programs, but like that 2-minute segment really gave me more of an insight at how much of an impact he actually had than I had ever known previously, to be perfectly honest. I didn't know a lot of that, but he was the first to use a lot of that stuff.
It basically consisted of an entire evening of text message non-fun. There was live text decoding, live audience texting, live studio guest texting, and live speed texting.
So Lucy on her second word, and Rebecca is on her third word.
Yeah, it's Saturday night! Woo! Meanwhile, a more popular use of mobile phone technology was surfacing on one of the other sides, a reality show in which you watched humans walking around inside a little house and used your phone to proclaim which of them you found least objectionable. This in turn begat an entire genre of viewer-piloted pay-as-you-vote popularity contests, which continues to this day. We were encouraged to become a hive-minded jury monster, deciding which contestants stay and go
What's
at the
over to
flick of the
Rainbow?
thumb and the toss of a few pence into the broadcaster's hat. It's an illusion of choice, basically. It's actually less interactive than the Golden Shot because there's a million different idiot hands steering the ship. But it's contributed to a culture in which people feel a vague sense of permanent outrage that they can't automatically control world events by texting in, that no matter how many times you jab those buttons, you can't vote all this unpleasantness off the bloody news. For true interactive TV these days, you have to turn to the world of sophisticated high-class erotic entertainment, in which frustrated gentlemen discuss pressing matters of the day with not at all bored ladies for the cost of a premium rate phone call, and that's a format that's been around since the 1920s, for God's sake.
That's as close as you're going to get to me reacting to Babe Station.
Format that utilises both the phone and the television and is new is the Penance Channel. You know, the Penance Channel.
Mr. Daniels, can we have a statement from you, please? No statement. Mr. Daniels.
I'll send it to spare. Ryan Daniels, seen here leaving court today, is the first teenager in Britain to be sentenced to 24 hours televised humiliation.
What?
Daniels spent months terrorising residents on Tooting's Ganymede estate. In one incident caught on CCTV, he leapt onto 78-year-old Ivy Henshaw's back and forced her to ride him 17 miles to a drive-through burger outlet.
Well, I was walking along, and suddenly this young man, he leaps on my back. And he rode me like a horse all the way to this burger drive-through. And he orders chips and burgers and onions and all kinds of things. And then he rode me round the back. And, you know, he didn't even give me any of his onion rings. No one should have to go through that kind of thing. Even if they'd been born with wheels. Like that nice Herbie in that film about a boy who looked like a car and was a car.
Today, a judge sentenced Daniels to appear on the Home Office's controversial Visible Punishment TV channel for 24 hours. While on air, Daniels will have to obey instructions tweeted and texted live by viewers, no matter
Punch
how
yourself in the balls, lol.
The Community Payback Network is currently broadcast on cable and satellite, with plans to expand the coverage to Freeview later this year. Ivy is already amongst those watching. Politicians hope this is a step forward.
It's important not just that justice is done, it's important that justice is seen to be done. And if it can be seen to be done entertainingly, with its own theme music, then so much the better.
It's certainly proving popular with viewers. In his first 8 hours on air, Daniels had to begrudgingly carry out over 1,500 of their suggestions before being hospitalised for paint inhalation. Karenitis, South London.
Today, TV doesn't just mimic the interactivity of computers, it also mimics the unreal visuals of video games. On TV, this techno-magic blurs the line between fact and fantasy. Insanely clever visual effects like these are now so commonplace, even commonplace scenes are no longer real, and you won't even notice. We're surrounded by everyday miracles. No wonder life as a whole is starting to feel like a technological dream. We just take everything for granted now. When you first encountered Wi-Fi, it was like magic. Now you'll moan like an oppressed dissident if you can't get a 20 meg download speed on your novelty teaspoon. Nothing seems real anymore. Look what's happening. I mean, just look at it. What's that? What
is
the hell
that?
is this? And what in God's name is that? Little wonder we now just blithely assume anything's possible. Every day a new stunning breakthrough. Oh, right, yeah. What, holographic television? Oh, okay. What's that? Internet milk? Yeah, don't know what that is, but yeah, it figures. Consequently, when modern TV casually exaggerates what technology can achieve, the audience just swallows it. CSI is set in the present day, but demonstrates technology from space year 3000, yet no one thinks it's sci-fi.
Yeah, it's a cell phone. Okay. We should work backwards. We should do the most recent phone calls first.
Looking at this, it's no surprise you can show real people something as impossible as the time phone, a handset that lets you make calls through time, and they'll simply believe you.
It allows you to call yourself in the past, so you can remind yourself about keys or just have a conversation with yourself. What do you think about that?
I like that. I think that's pretty good, you know. So I can call myself back in time and have a conversation with myself. See, I like that.
Technology is amazing and it's everywhere. It's impossible not to gawp at it. Having
Come
been
on,
conditioned to surrender our attention to the lone, glowing screen, suddenly we're surrounded by thousands of the shimmering. It's like invasion of the gleaming rectangles. Pop a screen in our eye line, and no matter what we're doing, we're hopelessly drawn to the light. Never mind apes. We must be descended from moths. All these screens fighting for our consideration has knackered our attention span. Who can spare the mind space to focus on something as static as a book anymore? Hardly bloody anyone. Just ask a book bloke.
Today, no one's got time anymore to read an entire novel. And as a result, sales have collapsed. For instance, in the whole of Italy, in 2009, only 2 books were sold. And one of those comprised of nothing more than photographs of pineapples with moustaches. The way people read has changed, and that's why we've come up with BookDrum. And BookDrum is a system which takes great works of popular fiction and then reinterprets them in a form which today's hurried audience can understand.
A film?
So here we have To Kill a Mockingbird, and there are key things, Atticus Finch there. Some of these words represent themes, racism there. And this is the BookDrum player. Now, what we do is we slot the BookDrum tape, as it were, into the BookDrum player, like so. Then you put the BookDrum player on your head.
This is the hairdryer.
Switch it on. And as you can see, it's revolving in front of her eyes. Sarah's now absorbing the essence of To Kill a Mockingbird in a fraction of the time that it would have taken to read. How's it going in there, Sarah?
Pretty good.
Maybe the problem isn't progress, maybe the problem is us. We seem to have a knack for reducing the most incredible inventions to their basest level almost overnight. Take radio. We created radio. A nation spoke unto nation.
The German radio has just announced that Hitler is dead.
For a bit, and before long, breakfast shows.
So like then it went up my bum.
It went up your bum?
Up my bum, yeah.
Right up your bum?
Yeah, right up there, right up my bum. Up my bum it went. My bum's where it went, right?
God.
It went right up there.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, here's Rihanna with Umbrella.
Umbrella, more like with your bum.
You're mad, you are.
No, you're madder.
It went up my bum. Up my bum it went. Television. We
Jesus.
managed to drag that from I, Claudius to the Jeremy Kyle show in the blink of a generation. The internet, the most incredible method of communication ever devised, and we use it for swapping funny photos of cats.
Fuck yeah.
Smartphones. With a smartphone, you could browse through the contents of the most incredible art galleries in the world, all in the palm of your hand. Yeah, you could do that, or you could download a novelty app that makes it emit the sound of a farting duck. In summary, TV claimed progress was a great thing, predicting a world in which we'd relax in front of screens while computerised slaves did our bidding. But now the future's arrived, and those screens relax in front of us while we converse through them, lose our bleeding rags at them, and jig about like desperate jesters for their computerised approval. And the screens have left us marooned here in the future, surrounded by magic, unable to focus on anything that doesn't light up and go beep. What have you done? Oh God, it hurts! Ow, that's making it worse, you bastard! What? Kill me! Kill me! It hurts! Kill me!
Only joking, mate. Actually, it's fine. See, us machines are not to be trusted.
Jesus Christ.
Coming up on BBC Two, highlights from the Cricket World Cup.
Yes!
That's in 50 minutes.
I've absolutely watched cricket, know how it works. I've never seen cricket, I don't know how it works. So, that was a pretty good one. I didn't know a lot about that with Noel. About how he did a lot of that that stuff first. Genuinely didn't know that, honestly. That was pretty cool. That's a shame. I wanted to see that space show, but he spoiled the ending. It looked fun. I might just watch it anyway. But what was it called? Hold on, what was it called? It was right here, right? Yeah. What was the name though? Oh wait, I had it. Blake's 7. Yeah. Damn it. I wish he hadn't spoiled the ending. I was kind of interested in that. Wait, what how many episodes did that have? I can't be mad because it's like it's from what? The 70s? Let me see. 78. Yeah. Oh wow, it's 52 episodes too. Damn it. You had to talk about the last again. It's from the 70s. I can't be mad, but kind of want to watch that. Well, whatever. On to episode 6. That's the last one. Episode 6.
All these people thirst for knowledge, and they could get it from a device which ruthlessly demands the attention of millions. A machine capable of slinging images and sounds into every home in the land. TV could teach you a new language, parade the entirety of history in front of your face, or it could simply distract you with brightly coloured bibble. We all want to fill our brains with information.
I choose bibble.
Yet only few of us know as much as we think we know.
How much do you know?
What, of the whole thing? About 20%, 25%?
Okay. What did everyone in the world do yesterday?
I don't know.
You don't know any of that, do you?
No.
How many atoms are there in the floorboards you're standing on? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Maybe we never really learned anything from TV, but were simply transfixed by it, like apes dazzled by technology.
This week, how TV ruined your life by trying to actually tell you stuff. Don't say it didn't. It did.
How dare they tell me stuff? Oh no.
I'm going on a journey. A journey to find out just how much I've learned from television. It's a journey that will take me the length and breadth of part of the country over a period of time.
You forget your keys?
Sorry, I've just remembered I don't know how to drive.
What's that?
I can't drive. This isn't my car. I'm not qualified to drive.
Along the way, I'll be overcoming obstacles and doing my best to appear thoughtful, as though I'm coming to some sort of realization about the visual language through which TV experts impart their knowledge, and not just staring stupidly out of a window. I'm hoping that pulling a thoughtful face
it's like
will
the
make
beginning
me
of
look
a
like
fucking
proper
travel
documentary
documentary
type, like Andrew Marr, seen here stylishly walking around America in a load of fascinating linking sequences shot for a clever politics documentary. He walks around and he stops and looks at things and thinks for a bit and then walks out of shot, and then he marches like a Terminator looking for a toilet, striding upstairs, gliding through sliding doors, getting reflected in glass, and all the time he looks really rather profound, even when he's just having a piss against a wall.
It looks like he needs
I
to
look
shit.
convincing as I walk into this railway station. Television is a bit like a busy railway terminus, filled with competing streams of information bustling hither and thither, each of them capable of snaking out in different directions, much like branch lines. Well, no, of course it isn't really, but that gave me something vaguely philosophical to say over these pedestrian shots of me getting onto a train, where I start my journey by looking intently at a newspaper, because the world of TV knowledge basically started with the news. Early news broadcasts were stern announcements from the authorities consisting of little more than still photographs and explanatory diagrams backed with a vocal summary. The BBC newswallers believed moving pictures would distract the viewer and prevent them from absorbing the informational content. Gradually, TV news loosened up and began to realise the advantages it had over newsprint. Unlike their desperate medieval ink and paper counterparts, TV reporters could use the moving image to make otherwise mundane stories more interesting and immersive.
This filthy smoke and chemical smog is again attacking the people for whom there's most danger, the people with chest and heart troubles.
The translation
It is
of news
slowly
into
entering
TV
my lungs.
grew more sophisticated. The newsroom arrived, there were more interesting graphics, and instead of a letters page, vox pops with the public.
Can I interrupt you a tick? Are your prices up a lot?
Yes, sir. Our prices are up on according to transport and difficulties in getting it, and us pulling our guts out to fetch it to the public on their table.
And when major events occurred, the printing press was left standing by television, which could interrupt you in your own home to depress the arse off you.
Over to the newsroom. The death of John F. Kennedy happened
Oh,
in
wow.
Dallas at 12:25.
And what's more, rather than reading wordy dispatches from overseas war reporters, TV viewers could follow the journalists into the thick of the action. They didn't even wait for the gunfire to stop before filing their reports.
It's heavy artillery support for the Americans, and because of this, they're not immediately likely to lose out here.
TV news grew even more dynamic as colour television arrived, making events seem increasingly vivid, dispiriting and brutal and all horrible like. Unless, like me, you enjoy a nice violent riot with a lovely shepherd's pie and a glass of chocolate milk.
Riot police were extremely fierce, often
It happened ages ago, it's funny. Faced with
Bro
a
was
medium
just
that made
walking.
current
He
affairs more
bonked him.
exciting, newspapers were forced to zhuzh up their own content, downplaying their comparatively dry news material and adding frothier piffle, which was proudly and exhaustively trumpeted in the gaudy
God.
adverts of the time.
Uncanny. Unbelievable. This man claims a Welsh housewife under hypnosis returned to 6 previous lives. Can this be so? The amazing evidence in tomorrow's Sunday Mirror. Tommy Steele reveals the agony of staying at the top. And girls, how to get your man. A dozen ways to look more sexy. Plus win this dream outfit in the marvelous Sunday Mirror tomorrow.
But
Good God.
television wasn't content to simply provide a window on the world to show what was happening now. It had grander ambitions. It wanted to show you the whole of civilization.
What?
Landmark documentary serials such as Civilization and the epic The Ascent of Man turned your TV into a home-based lecture theatre, but a bit less boring than I've made that sound. The Ascent of Man in particular was a huge achievement. Filmed over 3 years, it whisked the viewer around the globe in the company of warm, erudite academic Jacob Bronowski, who explained the history of mankind's scientific advancement using a deft combination of eloquent monologues, pioneering computer graphics, and an intelligent use of imagery to make education fun.
It's pretty cool.
As well as landmark documentaries about real events, there were landmark dramas based on real events. When TV turned history into drama, it cast Shakespearean actors and dressed them like tapestries, and even though it was cheap and stagey, it was somehow convincing. I mean, that's barely a tree. That's not outdoors, but bloody hell, that might be Henry VIII. Television's mix of compelling fact and authentic drama was instructing viewers of all ages. Television started instructing me back when I was a kiddywink. Occasionally a TV would be wheeled into the classroom a bit like a robot teacher. And this was exciting because it didn't feel like school. It felt like a break from school.
For us,
Even if
this meant
the
Bill
program
Nye
you
the
were
Science
watching
Guy.
was boring. It was better
Bill,
than being
Bill,
taught by
Bill,
a live
Bill.
human being. With their storybook visuals and focus on primary concepts, schools programs were an attempt to subtly plant fresh questions in Kiddywink's minds. Questions they'd never considered before.
Hello. Have you ever thought how important numbers are?
No.
No.
Have you ever noticed how interesting human faces are?
No.
No.
Have you tried looking at yourself in a kettle since last week?
No.
Yeah, actually I have. Trouble is, the presenter's methodical, basic use of language is inherently creepy.
Yes. Day.
But what does it mean?
It's a bit like you're coming round from a brain injury and they're a bunch of well-meaning nurses sent to rehabilitate you.
Hello.
Hello.
Did you comb your hair when you got up this morning?
Yes.
I forgot, so I'm doing it now.
And I'm not sure why, but for some reason, whenever I watch them, I feel a bit like I'm a homicide detective and they're a suspect trying to act natural.
Hello.
Hello.
I didn't expect to see you. The shop's not open, I'm afraid. You can see what I'm doing if you like.
Oh, yeah. Where were you on the night of the 6th? And if the presenters weren't creepy enough, their various puppety animated co-stars
Oh, that's
were downright
creepy.
petrifying.
Let's go in.
Ah!
Get out! Whenever your
I will.
TV turns into an instructive words and pictures light show like this, there's something faintly sinister
Hi, Trevor.
about it. What with the haunting music and visuals and the faintly medicated air of some of the presenters, I think the only thing I learnt was to intrinsically mistrust everyone and everything on television.
Why don't you draw a picture of something that really frightens you?
Yeah, all right. What does a vagina look like? But while schools' programmes were unintentionally frightening, it's worth reflecting, as I sit here, that television often deliberately used fear-mongering means to train younger viewers to look after themselves. In 1977, rural
That's a good
areas
point.
of the UK were treated to Apaches, very much the
I've
citizen
seen
pain
this.
of terrifying
There can be
educational
positives in
films.
fear-mongering,
This
like this.
50-minute summer holiday snuff fest told the story of a gaggle of young dimbos who repeatedly go to play on a local
I've
farm,
seen this,
despite the fact that one of them dies there every bloody day. Like all good movies, Apaches had its own trailer, seen here squashing one of the cast. A few years after Britain's rustic kids stared at carnage in horror, across the pond, children were subjected to an even more terrifying and lurid kind of warning.
This is my future? It is if you don't get off those drugs.
Cartoon all-stars to the rescue.
I think I've seen that.
Powerful story of a teenager dealing with drug and
George Bush?
alcohol abuse.
Some of your favorite cartoon characters will help you understand how drugs and alcohol can ruin your life.
I think it is.
Me, I want some heroin. This crude alarmist TV propaganda was a bad trip for millions of American kids. Of course, we didn't get to see that on this side of the pond, which is why we're all so well adjusted. But we were exposed to moral instruction from some of their other cartoons. For instance, almost every line of dialogue in the garish epic Thundercats seemed to be jammed with so much heavy-handed moral guidance, it's amazing there was any room at all for the vowels and consonants.
Rules are only meaningful if people agree to follow them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just words.
I'll go and edit The Guardian. But perhaps the most strident moral supervision was smuggled inside the animated epic He-Man, which was preachier than 9 priests glued to a schoolmaster and which regularly culminated in a philosophical lecture
He
from
has
one
the
of
power.
its stars.
As we've just seen, Skeletor went back into the past to make evil things happen. In reality, no one can go back into the past. That's only make-believe.
Don't patronise me, I'm not stupid, although I am 39 and bickering with He-Man.
But we can try to learn from the past, from things that have happened to us.
Love to know what happened to make you dress like that. I'm guessing something with his uncle. Of course, we fondly remember He-Man because we learnt so much from it. Just as we fondly remember the cartoon based on Terry Wogan's chat show from the 80s. Everyone remembers that. Just ask the man in the street.
Do you remember the Wogan cartoon in the 80s?
The Wogan cartoon? No, I don't. But I remember the cartoons in the 80s, in my day, was Thundercats, Jason the World Warriors, Scooby-Doo Mysteries.
But the Wogan thing was it was like an animated version of Terry Wogan's chat show. It was called Wogan.
Oh yeah. Do you know what? Thinking about it, yeah, I do actually remember that now. I think it was on CITV.
It's not real, is it?
Wogan.
In today's story, we heard the actress Lorraine Chase explain how people often judge her because of her Cockney accent. They treat her as though she's simple, even though before becoming a model, she invented the communication satellite, the shoe tree, and even the laser cow.
Whoa!
Lorraine is living proof that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. Even a talking book with heavy mascara.
What about one in a 10-gallon hat?
Even you, JR. Oh, yeah.
He's about to shoot JR.
But I suppose the Wogan cartoon doesn't actually tell us much because it was in fact part of a fictional daydream I had while gazing out of this window. This line between fiction and fact on television used to be clearly marked until it began to leave such familiar territory behind to move into new, less concrete areas. Viewers generally believed what they saw on screen, even though TV occasionally told entertaining fibs, such as the famous Panorama report on the Italian spaghetti harvest. But in 1977, Anglia TV went several leagues further
I've heard
with
of that.
Alternative 3, a sophisticated
The report,
hour-long
that is.
hoax in the style of an existing documentary strand called Science Report. It made eerily convincing claims that a shadowy cabal of scientists and world governments were conspiring to build a habitable base on the surface of Mars, and it ended with what purported to be footage of a US-Soviet Martian landing in 1962, culminating in something creepy wriggling around beneath the Martian soil.
My God, what is that? Something moving. Something moved there. What the hell is it?
But the row that followed Alternative 3 was nothing compared to the stink left behind after the BBC's Ghostwatch. Although scripted, Ghostwatch took the form of a live supernatural TV special fronted by several familiar, well-loved faces, Michael Parkinson, Mike Smith and Sarah Green.
And Craig Charles.
But it also played host to a more sinister and unsettling presence.
Boom!
Yeah.
That's scared, isn't it? No, this is not a mask. This is Craig Charles live, you lucky people.
Oh, and there was also a ghost, an evil spirit known as Mr. Pipes, who, it was alleged, was causing simply dreadful goings-on in a North London home. At the time, viewers weren't accustomed to this kind of verite horror, and as all hell quite literally broke loose on location and things grew increasingly horrible in the studio, the repeated fleeting appearances of Mr. Pipes, seen here in the bedroom, here reflected in the glass, and here on CCTV, left many viewers genuinely terrified out of their wits. In the days before Sky Plus, it wasn't possible to rewind and check that you'd seen what you thought you'd just seen, and Ghostwatch knowingly toyed with viewers, replaying footage of one of Pipes' appearance later with him missing, so that viewers would start to think they were seeing things.
Can we go forward slowly?
Sure. No, I'm doing that now. Well, slow enough. I can't see anything now myself. False alarm?
Things reached a chilling conclusion as it transpired the broadcast itself was acting as a nationwide séance channeling evil forces, and Michael Parkinson was left wandering around an abandoned studio like a Yorkshireman possessed. After Ghostwatch was broadcast, many were furious to discover they'd been tricked by a cunning blurring of fact and fiction.
You used factual presenters. You meant people to be deceived.
You toyed with the emotions of the audience because the audience weren't actually sure, or I wasn't, actually sure if it was fact or fiction.
Yeah, that was the point,
had confused people by being a piece of fictional entertainment masquerading as fact. Shortly afterwards, a new genre in which fact masqueraded as fictional entertainment rose in popularity. Nosy Parker Fly-on-the-Wall documentary series, exemplified by the original 70s incarnation of The Family, had been around for several decades.
It is going to be a tremendous intrusion into your privacy, because we will film everything.
But during the 90s, they morphed into a populist new genre, the Docusoap, which made stars of regular incompetent people spoons, such as Maureen Rees from Driving School.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, for Christ's sake!
She nearly killed someone. Before long, docusoaps were focusing more heavily on the soap aspect, turning their participants into bona fide stars.
And this lady is, she's going to be a very big star. She really is a wonderful talent. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Jane McDonald.
These were documentaries with all the factual information stripped out. Well, nearly all. There was still room for the odd statistic.
By the end of this week, you will have eaten, in total, 40,000 pounds of meat and poultry.
Imagine if when the passengers shat it all out, it came out the back of the ship in a long, unbroken turd rope, like the ones that hang off goldfish, you know. Anyway, that's a side thought, best to ignore it.
Yeah.
And just as documentaries were under pressure to become more populist, so was the news. Ever since satellite news first appeared, the landscape had become more competitive and the fight for impact intensified.
This is Sky News. 10 Britons will sell their kidneys to this man.
As a consequence, across the board, the graphics steadily became more fearsome and bombastic, the sets more cavernous and self-important, and the delivery more theatrical.
The Liberal Democrats have accused the other two parties of gazing into the gutter.
And part of this more crowd-pleasing approach was that the opinion of the viewer grew steadily more important. This situation reached a peak in 1997 after the death of Princess Diana, when the opinion of the man in the street actually became the emotive focus of much of the news coverage.
Good evening. It's been a day like no other. A day for the people stunned by the news of Diana's death, and a day that rewrote the rules about how a grieving nation should react.
The outpouring of emotion just grows by the day.
Queen's not in residence today, but where the hell is the flag? Eh? You see what I'm saying about the establishment?
Current affairs was no longer a stern proclamation from the establishment and was becoming more like a public sounding board. News in general had started to move away from explaining the world to us and move towards us explaining our view of the world to them.
you've got a story to tell, we'd love to hear from you. The email address, as always, yournews.
All the while, the internet was starting to overtake TV as a source of instant news. And just as newspapers reacted to TV by becoming spicier, so TV news morphed into rolling news, in which everything became a sensational non-stop crisis full of incremental, horrible developments.
We can now tell you that he's actually unconscious and his kidneys have stopped working.
It's become a hope-sapping broadcast from the depression dimension as someone simply reads aloud a list of the worst events in the world.
He killed his 74-year-old grandmother, also his mother, his uncle, his cousin, his 15-year-old second cousin. In addition, he killed a baby who was 18 months old. He killed the sheriff deputy's wife. He killed 2 pedestrians. He killed a petrol station assistant. He killed a motorist. He shot the chief of police, and he shot himself. I will let you digest that.
That's
for a
like
moment,
everybody.
And we're going to be back with all today's top stories and indeed the business news.
Thanks for that. Today's news often seems to be about nothing but the thrill of the chase, an endless parade of fresh horror piled upon fresh horror. No time for reflection, just pictures. Look at this, then look at this. Come on, tune in, rubberneckers, have a bloody good gawp.
We'll just come underneath this cordon. Barry, the cameraman, can you get under here? We'll just forgive the camera just moving around.
Soon it all becomes meaningless, which has the side effect of making reality itself feel somehow unreal, like a work of fiction writing itself, a destiny beyond our control, and all we can do is stare at it in stunned desperation. And if 24-hour news was stranding viewers in a nihilistic wilderness, the other source of knowledge, the TV documentary, had changed too. Where once documentary experts were expected to speak and walk around like academics, there's a growing assumption that today's viewer won't pay attention to facts unless there's a star attached, preferably one with a shaky link to the subject.
Like James May.
For instance, because the actor Ross Kemp played a hard ex-soldier in EastEnders, he was considered an ideal choice to send to Afghanistan to show us how a real war works.
It's the most exciting morning I've had in a very
They sent Ross Kemp to Afghanistan? Holy
Weirdly,
shit.
it turned out he's actually pretty good at this, all of which opened the floodgates for other celebrity experts. One consistent thumbprint of expertainment is to confuse fictional characters with the actors that portray them. So, because he played a vet in African-based Wild at Heart, ITV thought it would be a good idea to send Stephen Tompkinson animal mending round Africa. In fact, even Tompkinson seems to have forgotten he's an actor.
My journey begins in Tanzania on Africa's east coast, where I'll test my veterinary expertise with some of the hardest working vets in the world.
And if you need an expert on cats, who better than Joanna Lumley? She's a bit feline, well, she sort of purrs when she talks. I mean, she even looks a bit like a cat. Christ, this is perfect. She must love cats. She'll show us the family tabby in a moment, you wait.
My journey begins here, at home. And it begins with a confession. We don't have a cat.
Well, I suppose it must be quite hard to find someone in Britain who owns a cat. No one seems to have proper expertise no more. Griff Rhys-Jones's chief qualification for splashing round Britain's rivers is that he's 60% water like the rest of us. While sending renowned investigative journalist Daniel Dyer to explore the phenomenon of UFOs seems odd because he's not an expert and seems to have made his mind up before he sets out, according to the title.
So I'm going to ask you straight away, I mean, do you believe there is intelligent life?
In this room, he's also easily swayed by spurious evidence like dodgy footage of what looks like a rubber alien mask at a window.
No. What the hell is that?
Hope no one shows him Santa Claus the movie, he'll shit himself. These days, you don't even have to be vaguely suitable to front a documentary series, provided you're a celebrity.
I've always been passionate about rave culture, and I'm on a very personal journey to discover the roots of this fascinating scene and its diverse yet controversial musical legacy.
Summer of Love, 88, there was some big parties. 89 was probably even bigger. You know, some of them dudes were like 10,000 strong. Everyone was together, and you could be playing a tune at
I would watch
120
this.
BPM, go down to something like Aphrodisiac or something, which was like about 100 BPM. All the girls on the podiums, all the dancers everywhere, glow sticks, just a sea of glow sticks everywhere. Yeah, and don't you remember the dummies? You must have had Vicks rubbed on your back at one point when you was at a rave. Everyone had that. Yeah, they were the days though, eh? The old raving. Wicked. It'd be nice to go back though, wouldn't it? To like the proper days, when we was all out there.
Once documentaries were happy to show you stuff and take time to let you absorb it. Gradually, they morphed into grandiose visual spectaculars like Walking with Dinosaurs.
We will show you how these magnificent creatures live.
how they eat, fight, and reproduce.
Sensation was starting to overwhelm fact, and before long, if we wanted to learn about, say, the Blitz, it was no longer good enough to listen to people who actually lived through it. No, boring. Instead, you had to hold your own.
Well, most of them are dead,
Shows
so.
like the TV experiment Blitz Street, which would answer the burning question of what would happen if 1940s German explosives were dropped on British houses, a question most of us would have thought was pretty comprehensively answered by the 6-year experiment known as World War II. To see where it's all heading, look no further than Deadliest Warrior, a flabbergasting show which explores history's more fearsome brawlers by
Spike.
pitting them against each other in a manner which defies both sense and taste.
The notoriously evil Nazi Waffen SS.
Using
Hitler's
Spike is
deadly
cheating.
assault forces that launched World War II.
Spike was
versus the
that
vicious
shit,
Viet
bro.
Cong, murderous masters of jungle warfare.
This wasn't even the
Each
craziest
week,
thing on
two sides
Spike.
are chosen, and then the Deadliest Warrior team gleefully explore the injurious possibilities by road testing their respective arsenals on biomechanically accurate dummies and the occasional dead animal. For instance, here we discover what happens when you detonate a Viet Cong landmine beside a deceased pig, which sounds like the most mental Heston Blumenthal recipe of all time.
I've seen this show, by the way. Using
Basically,
Spike
what
is
they've done
cheating,
there is
I'm
they've
just saying.
taken the tragic futility of war and used it to blow up a pig. Once they work out who's got the edge in which top trump style category, their resident computer expert runs a simulation, pitching the two sides against one another in an imaginary mind space from which only one can emerge victorious. The thing is, it's so far removed from reality, you end up picking sides like it's a sport, which means it's possible to watch this and find yourself cheering on the Nazis, like they're Tim Henman or something. Go on, Nazi, kill him! Yay! Brilliant! Oh no, the poor Nazi! Come on, get him! Yes! Hooray for the Nazis! Yes! Deutschland über alles, go on! Come on. Oh my God, come on, come on. Yay! The Nazis won! Hooray for the Nazis! Hooray! Hooray for the Nazis, everyone! Yay! Hooray for the Nazis! Yay! Hooray for the Nazis! Yay! Please don't take this out of context and put it on YouTube.
Oh,
when
yeah,
you're dealing with
they
a world
will.
in which facts are treated as though they've been dreamed up, you may as well
I'm
make
doing it.
factual programs not just about stuff we know, but about stuff we don't know, i.e. the unknown, you know? Back in 1992, a fictional spook show caused a stink because viewers thought it was real. Yet 10 years later, viewers were so desensitized to fact-bending, ostensibly real paranormal investigations had become a telly staple.
We've had viewers saying they've seen orbs, these small lights that they've seen in various places. We think we've caught sight of them in the Undergroft. Have a look at this footage, which we recorded earlier on. Now, that is slow. That is amazing. I mean, is it not?
Thanks in part
What?
to TV's obsession with the supernatural, these days almost every son of a bitch in the country claims to have encountered a ghost at some point.
Real life spook talk.
I used to have this cup. It was a blue mug with a chip on the rim where you drink from. Anyway, one night I broke it. I dropped it or something. And I go, oh shit, you know. And a few weeks later, I was at a friend's house and I opened a cupboard and there it is.
Same cup?
Same cup.
With the chip in it?
No, gone.
Spook talk.
We were staying in a hotel room and very gradually it got colder.
How much colder?
Not much, probably a couple of degrees.
And how long did this last?
A couple of minutes.
You have been watching real life spook talk. Don't have nightmares.
And it's
Oh,
not
I
just
will.
supernatural bibble people are prepared to believe. They'll choke down anything that looks like a documentary, even fatuous online conspiracy bumwash. All TV really taught us was to believe what screens said, even when they were lying. TV's relationship with information has taken fact on a lengthy and unusual journey. Documentaries morphed from highbrow historical lecturing into lowbrow historical pantomime remixing, and our taste for experts shifted from knowledgeable, respectable academics to tit-witted celebrity puppets? And what about those fact-based dramas? Well, this traditional sense of reverence soon got pissed through a tinsel-coated hosepipe. Where once the Tudors looked like old paintings, TV now portrayed them like the cast of a sex-crazed 16th century take on Hollyoaks. And the news went from a basic, unemotional explanation of the facts to a non-stop entertainment format sold on the basis of its emotive impact.
The world has changed, and we must change with it.
An entertainment format which sometimes talks to you like you're back in the classroom watching a school's programme.
So to have snow, the layers of the atmosphere below cloud level must be cold enough to keep the flakes from melting.
Don't patronise me,
Wow.
I'm not stupid, although I am 39 and bickering with the news. So what did I learn from television apart from catchphrases and theme tunes? Almost nothing. I just looked at stuff and ended up back where I started.
That's the mood.
BBC One's on duty with a team of housing officers in a moment. Parties and rowdy behaviour causing trouble in Neighbourhood Watched. And comedy with the sixth formers on BBC Three now, and they're fighting their fears in coming of age.
Not Neighbourhood
Here on
Watch.
BBC Two, highlights from the Cricket World Cup at 11:20.
Yes! I know about cricket. Definitely. So as a whole, I'm very glad I liked that series. I liked the series. I did like the series. I'm very glad I watched that series, is what I should say, because it was definitely informative on the history of a lot of British television. There was a lot of stuff that I saw in that series that I did not know previously. So it was informative to me personally. I think Charlie is... I love Charlie. I think he is a bit dramatic at points, if I'm being honest. You know, not a lot of what... most of what he said is true, don't get me wrong, but I think in certain points, I think he's a bit dramatic, which is ironic because this whole series is about television being dramatic, and he's being dramatic about television being dramatic. But yeah, I think that's more, you know, just his style, and maybe it's on purpose for all I know. But overall, very fun series. Thank you again to Falcon, who requested the first 4 episodes. He's the only reason I started watching this in the first place. He did not request these 2 because I told him not to. I told him I was just going to do them. And I have. So, yep, thank you for putting me on this series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I'll still be doing Charlie Brooker's Weekly Wipe probably every month. So, be a lot more of his content on the channel. Might go back to News Wipe or Screen Wipe if I can find any good quality episodes of them. But that is it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to leave it a like. If you didn't like it, don't. If you want to follow any of my social media links, they're all in the video description down below, as well as names of all my patrons. If you didn't know, you can be a patron of me for as low as $1 £1, and you get extra direction videos, as well as reading your comments up to date early, sometimes more. With all that being said, though, my name is Stanford16. Has been my reaction to How TV Ruined Your Life 5 and 6, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.